Richards.
Hello, Lizzie Lasater.
Hi, Penelope.
Yes, she's right here.
Welcome to today's anatomy question. I'll just say right off the bat, we are working hard at starting to put together and flesh out our new digital anatomy training for movement literacy. It's going to be so exciting. Please go to experientialanatomy.yoga, sign up. You'll hear about the course and you'll get all of these videos as well. So our topic today, Mary, spirals. This idea about rotating in a pose. So I've heard that for years, and it struck me the other day. I was taking a class, and they were talking about in Tadasana, which I think of as a sort of static pose. I was standing there, and then, hi Penelope, they were talking about internally rotating my thighs and spiraling my inner thighs. And I just couldn't help but think, because I live in Austria, that spiraling doesn't seem to make sense to me in the joints. And I was thinking, spiraling sounds like a ski accident. I don't know. I mean, I was just like, excuse me. And so then what I do now in those moments when I'm taking class and I hear some sort of received wisdom anatomical cue, I put a little stick note in my mind and I think Mary Richards.
Oh no, I'm in your head.
So I'm here in front of the Anatomy Oracle. Please talk to us today about spiraling.
It's such an interesting term. Because if you do kind of think about the effects of spiraling or torsion, especially if you add speed, if you add velocity, often produces tissue damage. And spirals don't end.
Right.
So what are we looking for? What are we looking for with a spiraling action? How far do you take it? Which direction does it go? Because in a true spiral, it's going both, if we are thinking vertically, it's going both down and up.
Yeah.
Down and up, right? So I think the term is frequently overused, and it's meant, I'm just guessing what's in another person's head. I don't personally use spiraling as an instruction. I tend to use terms like, let's say you're standing in Tadasana, and I notice that you're standing duck-footed with your feet turned out. I will then say, take a block, place it between your thighs, close to the root of the body, adjust the outer edges of your feet so that they're parallel, so that your thigh bones are in neutral. I tend to look for the middle of a pose. I tend to look for the middle of a joint, to look for the space between effort and ease.
But so in that move, for example, I'm in Tadasana. I can get a block. I have one. Hold on. Okay, so let me step back slightly. So I'm in Tadasana. I have a block between my legs.
Yes.
What I feel, and tell me if this is anatomically sort of correct, true to what's happening, I just feel that I'm squeezing in. I don't actually feel that I'm spiraling around in any direction. And when I do try to create a sense of spiral in the thighs, I start to feel a kind of crunch in my knees.
I was about to say, I bet you feel it in your knees. So, what you describe is, I think, a common experience for people. And so the way that I'll instruct Tadasana with a block is I'll first have, would you stand again in Tadasana?
With?
So we can't, Hip width apart. Please place the block comfortably between the thighs, close to the root of the body without touching. And I want you to now turn your feet out like a duck. And you feel how the block pushes forward?
Yes.
Okay. Now I want you to adjust the outer edges of your feet so that they're parallel, and then try to turn your groins toward the wall behind you. Do you feel does the block move back for you, Lizzie, when you do that?
A smidge. It's like,
a smidge. Yes, that's what we want, because that smidge is your tensor fascia lata bringing you to neutral. And that's what we want. We don't want, when you're standing in Tadasana, we don't want external rotation. We don't want internal rotation. We want to be like Goldilocks and find just right. Because
No, go ahead.
Okay, because when we're in neutral, we maintain joint space and we maintain balance, tensional balance in the tissues. Does that make sense?
What do you mean by tensional balance?
So we often have functional imbalances in our hip rotators, for instance. We also often have functional imbalance in our rotator cuff.
Meaning that one side is different than the other?
Meaning that certain muscles in the group are stronger than others, and their strength overrides the rhythm, the activation pattern that they're designed to create.
Bullies.
But yes, there seems to be an epidemic of.
Bullying. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Does that make sense? So my concern, I guess, with the term spiraling is, are we reinforcing the bullies?
And so for me, when you said we're aiming towards neutral, which resonates for me, it seems like a spiral conceptually doesn't get us to a neutral place because a spiral never ends. So how do you know? I mean, for example, you in one of an earlier episode of this program, and earlier today's anatomy question, when we talked about dog pose, you said something that was so transformative for me about this internally rotated, externally rotated question in dog pose. And what you said is that most people need internal rotation, and then once you reach a certain point of mobility, if you're still able to move your arm behind your head, at that point you internally rotate, and that lengthens. Transformed my armpit in dog pose. Like only crazy yoga people will understand the magic of that sentence. Transformed my armpit in dog pose. But so are you saying that exists in all I mean, because there was a point at which my body does not need to internally rotate anymore. So
it doesn't need to externally rotate. You don't need to keep doing that. And so this is where our discernment, our viveka, is so important on the mat, because we hear the instruction, spiral, rotate, and we continue ad infinitum to do that because perhaps we have an idea that more is more.
Right.
And in my opinion and in my experience of asana specifically, I found that often the exact opposite is true. Less is more. Less is more.
How minimalist of you.
47 years it's taken me to figure this out, Lizzie. So, but we want to hit the pose.
Yeah.
And so we continue with this idea of rotation after it's outlived its utility in the body. And if we consider, for instance, in Warrior 1, in Virabhadrasana 1, let's say your right leg is forward and your left leg is back. your right thigh, when you're in the lunge, needs to be in external rotation.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be in external rotation to maintain congruence in the joint, stability in the joint.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to maximize contact between the head of the thigh bone and the surface of the hip socket, which is called the acetabulum.
Mm-hmm.
The back leg, though, if we turn that back thigh outward,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's say you're in Warrior One and you turn your toes out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that has the opposite effect in that back hip,
Mm-hmm.
because it disrupts everything below it and above it. So it's going to go into the knee, the ankle, it's going to go into the SI joint, the low back, all the way up to the neck. So by positioning your left foot to a position of neutrality, you actually stabilize the pose,
Mm-hmm.
and you balance the muscle activation. And that's what we want. You know, Sthira Sukham Asanam. That sutra is often translated as the pose is comfortable and steady. But your mom shares a translation that lives with me, and that is abiding in ease is asana.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this radical idea that asana actually is easy. But we make it so much harder by perpetuating these spirals.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at tissues in the body, we're just a conglomeration of sacs.
Well, when you put it that way, darling.
Of bags and bags and bags. And these tissues, a lot of them have diagonal lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that the spiraling instructions are designed to balance those diagonal lines of resistance in the body, but I just question how accurate the languaging is.
I think that's a nice place to end. With a question.
Always I have no answers, Lizzie. All I do is offer information and ask more questions.
Like a true oracle. Mary Richards, where can we find you in the internet?
At maryrichardsyoga.com and on Facebook at A Little Yoga Goes a Long Way.
I'm LizzieLasater.com, on Instagram, on Facebook. Come say hello, and please be sure to go to experientialanatomy.yoga. Give us your email, and we'll give you all the goodies about the upcoming movement literacy course.
That's right.
Namaste.
Namaste.